Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We'll be focusing on the Device Insights dashboard within Right-Click Tools. This is part 2 of a 4-part series on dashboards and also Builder and Runner within Right-Click Tools. We've got 2 great hosts today. We've got Marty and Courtney. Marty is the solutions engineer here at Recast, and Courtney is the technical support engineer at Recast. Both are superstars within our company and also within the space. So you guys are in both great hands. So without further ado, Courtney, let's take it away.
Thanks for that introduction. On our agenda for today is the introductions to the right-click tools and go through the 3 pillars of right-click tools, as well as a demo where we'll get into the hardware and firmware audit dashboard, as well as Endpoint Insights.
So we're going to talk first about the 3 pillars of right-click tools. These are kind of the 3 things that as we're adding right-click tools, as we use the right-click tools, that we want to make sure that we're continuing to do with all of those. The first thing is productivity, so improved productivity. And essentially what that means is that we're adding, the idea of it is that we're adding the right-click tools right where you're working. So it's right inside of the config manager console. And you don't have to go other places to try and do things like that. The next one is that we have actionable insights. All of the dashboards that you see today, we're going to be able to do actions right from inside those dashboards. So not only are we going to give you information that you're looking for, but the idea then is that you can go ahead and do the action, take action right from inside there to remediate or to, just get more information or whatever you need to do on the devices. And the last pillar is powerful automation. And what that is our, kind of comes down to our builder and runner tool, which we will be doing a demo of in our next webinar, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. So you can absolutely look forward to that to find out more about automation. And the idea there, just a brief idea of what's going on there. The idea is that you can automate tasks that you do regularly so that you don't have to continue to do them, right? You can absolutely make them so that they're scheduled, and then you can just take a look at the results and make sure that things are working the way that you want them to. But more about that in a future webinar. Oh yeah, and here are some customers of ours. You may know some of these places, you may be a part of some of these places, but here are some customers that are currently using the right-click tools, and we hope to add many, many more as well. All right, next is going to be a dashboard walkthrough. So I'm going to hand it off to Courtney to go ahead and go through our first dashboard.
Thanks, Marty, for passing it over. The first dashboard we have on our demonstration today is our hardware and firmware audit. It is located under your assets and compliance, and then the Recast software node, and then go to hardware and firmware audit. When you get to this collection, or when you get to this dashboard, pick a collection that you would like to know more information about, and go ahead and hit scan. Here, this will start grabbing in all your chassis types, your manufacturers and models you have for that specific collection. It will show you everything that you have in that collection and just show you a big overview of your devices. By default, you will have these 3 different charts, but there is more options under select a chart. Once these all filter in, you can see that it's grabbing more and more information, and you can go ahead and hit select charts. We also have UEFI status and secure boot status, so you can go ahead and check on your devices that might have those disabled. This is great if you're working on upgrading to Windows 11, because and this solves the problem of having to go ahead and look at all your devices, go through them one at a time to make sure the statuses are enabled so that you can update to Windows 11. You can also deselect charts. So if I didn't want to look at UEFI, or maybe I don't want to look at the chassis type, I can go ahead and deselect those charts and then select the charts that I want to look at. And Another chart we have is this BIOS version. So this will show you everything you have in your environment. And if you need to select a category, but you can't see the small little slivers in there, you can go ahead and select the key over here on the right side of the pie chart. And you can see all the devices in that category. So in this case, I chose the latitudes, and I would see all those that I have for this specific model and the different BIOS versions. If you're looking to do deep dive into like a specific model or maybe a specific manufacturer, you can go ahead and use this nested filtering, and that will go ahead and help you narrow down what you're looking for. So if you select, in this case, maybe HPs, so I chose my HP devices, and then I will see all the different models I have of just HPs. I won't see any other categories. I will just select or just see the ones that I selected in the first pie chart. So in this case, I chose our 850s, and you can see that I have 11 of those 850 HPs. So I can go ahead and select these, and I can see maybe their BIOS version. Some of them are out of date. I can select a different BIOS version. And then if I've already maybe deployed the latest BIOS version, I can go ahead and add device to collections. So you can select these devices, and you still have the rest of the right-click tools available to action against those devices. If you need to maybe have your help desk or support desk go ahead and manually update them, you can export this information to CSV, give them a list of things that might have an older BIOS version, things like that, or just if you need that kind of information for updates or upgrades or management, things like that, you can have all this information at your fingertips. That is the hardware and firmware audit dashboard in a nutshell.
Very cool. Interesting story about the hardware and firmware audit dashboard. I was working with a customer on this a couple of weeks ago, and actually we went and we drilled down on his Dells, which he had a whole bunch of, and then for a specific model, I think there were 11 machines with 8 different BIOS versions. So I always think of this as it's kind of a what the problem that this hardware and firmware audit dashboard is solving is how can I get insight into what's actually in my environment, and how can I find it out really quickly, right? 3 clicks, and we were at the fact that they had 8 different BIOS versions, and none of them were the most recent one when we actually looked it up. So yeah, very cool, very cool. Thanks, Courtney.
Thanks.
All right, what we're going to talk about next, Courtney's going to throw over the hosting to me so that I can share my screen. All right. What we're going to do next is we are going to talk a little bit about our next dashboard, which is the Endpoint Insights dashboard. Now, if you have had right-click tools for a while, and you've seen the dashboards over here on the side, you may have noticed about a year ago, maybe a little bit less, this Endpoint Insights dashboard showed up with some additional stuff in it. And I think in order to get a better idea of what's going on here, we maybe need to talk just a second about Endpoint Insights. So Endpoint Insights, like I said, came to us about a year ago. And started as a company called Enhancesoft. Many of you may know Enhancesoft. And the idea of Enhancesoft and now Endpoint Insights is getting information. It's essentially getting us information that hasn't existed in Config Manager up to this point, and giving us new insights into things that we didn't even know that we needed, right? Because Config Manager never had them. So you can actually see real easily once you have Endpoint Insights installed, you can actually go ahead and grab a device, and I'll show you exactly kind of what we're doing with what's going on here. Is you can actually go into the Resource Explorer for a device, and you can actually see that we're adding additional information to the hardware inventory, to the resources that don't usually exist. So we're adding some application information, database information. Is there a database on this machine? Things like who's in all the local groups, who are all the local users, monitor information. This is something that for years you just haven't been able to get at it real well. Information about monitors, the resolution of those monitors, which is another thing that might be important under Windows 11. Different drivers for the ODBC, package information that may be being deployed to these devices, shares that are being mapped, share permissions, drives and printers that are being mapped, as well as SQL information. And one other big one, which is user programs. So you can kind of see what we're doing here is we're actually adding additional information that doesn't exist in the config manager database now. So going back to our Endpoint Insights dashboard, what does this actually show? Well, this shows a kind of a sub list of all of the, of a big, huge list of reports that Endpoint Insights brings in. These are kind of some easy ones that we wanted to bring forward, but also ones that can be kind of powerful as well. So if you look here, we can actually get information about software right inside here. If I click on the software dashboard and grab a collection, and I'm going to go ahead and grab a collection of real computers, even though it says virtual devices, those are really virtual devices. And I can actually see the software that is installed on these computers. Now, if you have noticed, you can actually see we're not only showing, and you can't really tell, but if you know Amazon Kindle, you know that Amazon Kindle actually installs itself in a user context. So you don't have to be in local admin in order to install the Amazon Kindle application. So it can be really, really hard to find if you're looking for it inside of Config Manager. As a matter of fact, it's not even going to show up if it's installed in the user context. But we can absolutely see what versions we've got installed in this collection and which machines that it's installed on. Now, where this actually gets real interesting is, let's imagine for a minute that your security team messaged you and said, hey, we've noticed that we got an alert from this from SMS Marshall about this application called Checkport, that version 2 has some problems with it, that we need to get it either updated or we need to get it off whatever machine it's on in our environment. So what we can actually do, we went ahead and grabbed our collection. We can see that it's installed in our environment. We can see that, yep, it's definitely version 2. And we can also see where it's installed in our environment. Now, because we're coming at this from inside the Endpoint Insights dashboard, we can absolutely click on here and we can do our right-click tools right from inside the dashboard here, which is something that's actually really exciting. Because why that's exciting is I can actually go here, go to our system information tool. And Checkport is an application that is installed as local admin. So because of that, it's going to show up in our system information tool. And I can actually search for Checkport right here. Oh, there it is. And I can go ahead and click uninstall right from here and uninstall it from this machine without ever having to log into the machine or without ever having to do anything else. You can notice it's got the uninstall string right here. So just one of the ways that getting some, being able to see the information in one place means that we can actually take action right from there. Now, while we're thinking about that, let's just back up for a second, because there's going to be a question a little bit about, so how is Endpoint Insights licensed? So Endpoint Insights is licensed as a separate program or separate application through Recast software. So you conceivably could have an Endpoint Insights license without having a right-click tools license. Or you could have a right-click tools license, an enterprise license, without having Endpoint Insights. So it's an add-on, or it can actually stand alone as well, but it is a separate product. When you have the community version of right-click tools and the and if you had a licensed version of Endpoint Insights, you would still be able to see the reports in here. And you would just, when you have the opportunity to do an action against the device, you would only have the community version actions that would be available. Similarly, if you are a Right-Click Tools enterprise customer, but you do not have Endpoint Insights, if you click on these, you're going to see some sample reports of what the reports look like. But you can actually do actions against the Config Manager native section. So you can actually see devices. Some of these are the native Config Manager reports. So you can actually take some action from in here as well. There's just a couple other things that I would like to show inside of Endpoint Insights. And what I'm actually going to do is also show you what else there is in Endpoint Insights. So Endpoint Insights, like we said, adds, you get the use of that Endpoint Insights dashboard. There are also additional reporting features that come with Endpoint Insights. So we'll have a whole bunch of different reports that show up here as well. The one that I wanted to show you real briefly is inside software, and it wasn't software dashboard, it's user programs. So what I wanted to do was kind of show you what it looks like if a user has installed software on a computer. So you can actually take a look here. So I'm narrowing it down to the computers that are real in our virtual environment. And I'm going to go ahead and view this report. This is actually my demo box. And what you can actually see here, if you look, is you can see applications. And remember when I said application, the Amazon Kindle application was installed as in a user context. You can see here from source whether something is installed in the user context or whether it's installed. When we say computer context, that means basically that it was installed as a local admin. So it's available to anyone on the computer. One of the other things, we're going to go ahead and go back. So there's additional stuff here that you can see, and you can check out our website about Endpoint Insights as well. One of the other things I was going to show in our Endpoint Insights is, actually, maybe I do need to do it from up here. Let's just see real quick. I do. All right, so back to monitoring. What I wanted to show a little bit is some things. One other thing that definitely does not come up with Config Manager, but shows up when you have Endpoint Insights installed is monitor information. So if you look here, this is all the different things that we can find out about monitor information. So perhaps we just want to know about a monitor that's connected to a specific computer. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of these EI computers, and it can actually show information about the monitor itself. So this computer has had a bunch of monitors connected to it, it looks like, during the various hardware times. So we can actually select which monitor we might need to replace. Let's say we're replacing this AOC monitor. And when we view the report, we can actually see right from here information about that monitor. So we can actually see serial number information. We can see how the monitor is connected to the computer. So right now we know that this one's actually connected with just a regular VGA connector, which actually can be super important because if you're sending out a technician to replace this monitor, we know that right now it's connecting with that VGA connector. So definitely the computer has that available. So we'll want to either make sure our replacement computer or replacement monitor has a VGA connector on it. And also make sure that our technician, when they go out there, actually goes out there with a VGA connector so that they don't have to make multiple trips to get that monitor working. That's actually one of the use cases of a customer of ours. They figured they've saved upwards of, it's a large customer, they've estimated they saved upwards of $1 million a year just on technicians making multiple trips. They've stopped the need to take multiple trips because they can see how computers are connected to monitors right now and don't have to worry about that in the future. They can make sure they come out with the right stuff. All right, so the thing, we'll probably end right here with Endpoint Insights information, but the thing that we really want to mention with Endpoint Insights is it just comes down to getting additional information that doesn't already exist. The other thing that is you may have noticed when I showed that it existed inside the config manager database, having that information inside the config manager database means that you can use that data to do things like queries to make collections if you wanted to. We have some collections that we've made in the past based on I don't know if I can find it real quick, but based on the like the dock that's connected to the computers. You could potentially do it based on which computers have Dell monitors right now, if you were looking for specific monitors. So it's basically creating information that you can absolutely use in your environment to get at additional things so that you can manage your workstations even better. All right, that's it for this part.
Thank you, Courtney and Marty, for the overview of the different dashboards. I think they're super helpful for everyone on the call with us today. Few housekeeping things. We have 2 webinars coming up in the next few weeks. As we mentioned earlier, the next one is on all things automation within Right-Click Tools Builder. And then we'll wrap up the 4-part series on April 5th with the software updates dashboard. So if you would like more information, please reach out to us or visit us on our website, recastsoftware.com. You can learn more about the different software offerings that we have.